So the E-Safety Commissioner of Australia has successfully obtained a federal court injunction against Twitter or X, which is a social media platform. Now, what it's doing is it's compelling Twitter to remove videos linked to a violent attack in Sydney, and more importantly, extending the requirement for that content removal from just Australia to a global scale. Which means that in India we will not be able to view that same content. Now, what is that content? On April 15th, there was a distressing incident in Sydney involving a terrorist attack on Bishop Marmari Emmanuel. And video of this violent event quickly surfaced on Twitter or X. The following day, Australia's E-Safety Commissioner issued a removal notice to X, basically telling them the specific URLs where this disturbing content could be viewed. And initially, Twitter responded by restricting access to these videos specifically for Australian users, but then stopped short of a worldwide content removal. So dissatisfied with this sort of action, the E-Safety Commissioner then escalated the matter to the federal court. And on April 22nd, the court granted an interim injunction demanding that Twitter, remove this content globally. Now, the court's decision was based on the classification of these videos as Class 1 material, which under Australian law includes content depicting offensive violence, with significant detail or impact. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind over here. If you think about it, right, why is this significant? Firstly, this legal reaction underscores an aggressive stance that Australia is taking to online content, particularly content that could amplify the effects of terrorist attacks, right? This approach reflects a broader global concerns about how social media, effectively platforms deal with extremist content. While Twitter has clarified that it has been asked to remove certain posts, it said that it is not viewing them as violating its rules on violent speech, which is bizarre. And their management has argued that the E-Safety Commissioner's sort of request overreached by demanding global censorship, which in their view conflicts with the principles of a free and open internet. And there are different rules and different laws in different countries. Now, Elon Musk has actually come out and highlighted that aspect by questioning the jurisdiction of Australian officials over global content. Even here, there are a couple of things to consider. This isn't the first time that Twitter or X has complied with requests of global takedowns. In India, for example, they've complied with requests to block tweets globally. The contrasting response of Twitter to the Australian government and to the Indian government in terms of requests for content takedown suggests a sort of inconsistency in the approach that the platform has to global content governance. Elon Musk did not tweet about how this is a problem when it came to India, but he has in case of Australia. So there's a lack of consistency in how Twitter applies its policies. But my guess is this is probably because under India's IT rules, there is criminal liability for its chief compliance officer in India. The other way to look at this is that let's look at it from the perspective of digital sovereignty. The demand by Australia's Chief E-Safety Commissioner for global takedowns for violent content highlights a challenge in content moderation, that there's a tension between national laws and global digital platforms. The actions of the E-Safety Commissioners, raise questions about the extent to which one country's regulator, one country's jurisdiction can influence global digital content, and also issues where national governments seek to enforce their laws and standards on global digital platforms across the world. So how much power can a single or should a single country have over digital spaces and the content that users share on those digital spaces? So Musk's pushback emphasizes a broader debate about national laws versus global sort of content takedown and global speech requirements. And now looking at the type of content over here, we'll get into that. So it sort of this underscores like the complexity of imposing local standards on a platform with a global user base, and to what extent one nation's regulatory framework should influence or control the availability of content worldwide. Like, what is illegal in one country may not necessarily be illegal in another. There are countries that, for example, ban homosexuality, and so should that content, if they issue a global ban for that content or some content, how does it impact? So this is an exceptional case. So we're going to look at this differently. The other is, the role of the judiciary in content moderation is to be looked at, right? So the Australian court decided to enforce a global takedown illustrates a new challenge. Like if this is something that's happened in India, where a book on Yoga Guru Ramdev by Juggernaut Books had been banned from sale globally, not just in India. So what if someone from another jurisdiction goes and challenges these restrictions in their countries, because they have the right to receive free speech as well? What should a platform do? Like, is there a case for global definitions or norms regarding some types of speech? Remember, we have the Christchurch call from New Zealand after in 2019 there was a terrorist attack live streamed online. But that Christchurch call was long binding, but was signed by over 130 governments, multiple online service providers, and civil society organizations. So I'm wondering whether Class 1 content should be defined globally, with a certain amount of terrorist extremist content, which should effectively not be allowed to be streamed.